Today we're talking about the metaverse, and specifically, can the metaverse cause the singularity? Some people already think that it can, at least when referring to the technological singularity, which is a time that is when technology essentially explodes and overtakes humanity. Usually it's thought in terms of AI being able to generate another AI that's even more intelligent than itself, and that one in turn can create an even more intelligent AI, and so on until it explodes exponentially. But there's a lot of different interpretations of the technological singularity, but we're going to look at it in terms of Hyperionism and what the real singularity is with regard to reality being transformed into a completely mental existence, which is a lot different than how the technological singularity is thought of, where it has more to do with materialism, which is a faulty position. We're also going to look at some very interesting developments with Meta, because as I said, the metaverse, could be the catalyst for this exponentially growth of information, technology, and knowledge, which propels us to a point where humanity will be nothing like what it is right now. And there are some new developments in the metaverse as well, where Meta is coming out with a new technology that will allow you to have sensations in the metaverse. And this is what I was talking about in our last stream. I said, technology would come out that would allow us to feel in it, and it would become to the point where we are almost completely and totally immersed within it. So that's what we're talking about today. It's going to be really good. I also want to remind you, if you support on Patreon, you will get access to our secret weekly live streams and our hidden Discord server, The Citadel, and many of my lecture notes. So if you enjoy my work, please consider supporting on Patreon. That's how I am able to do what I do. All right, let's start things off by talking about what the technological singularity actually is. So let me read to you here a definition of the technological singularity. So the technological singularity, or simply the singularity, is a hypothetical point in time at which technological growth becomes uncontrollable and irreversible, resulting in the unforeseeable changes to human civilization. According to the most popular version of the singularity hypothesis, called intelligence explosion, an upgraded intelligent agent will eventually enter a runaway reaction of self-improvement cycles, each new and more intelligent generation appearing more and more rapidly, causing an explosion in intelligence and resulting in a powerful superintelligence that qualitatively far surpasses all human intelligence. So, von Neumann centered on the accelerating progress of technology and changes in the mode of human life, which gives the appearance of approaching some essential singularity in the history of the race beyond which human affairs as we know them could not continue. So, that is what the technological singularity is. And what we're going to be looking at today is some people are claiming that the singularity is fast approaching, and it will happen first in the metaverse. So that's something that we're going to be taking a look at. But what I want to explain to you guys is something very important here. And that is that as a technological singularity is defined, it's often looked at in terms of AI, or artificial intelligence, in that AI is going to be that intelligence that is able to rapidly develop itself and then overtake humanity. But what I'm going to be talking about today is how that some kind of artificial intelligence attaining consciousness is not going to be what happens. Rather, it's going to be a mental singularity rather than an artificial singularity. Because right now, it's in terms of an artificial intelligence, an artificial technological singularity, but we will see that it is actually a mental singularity that can be facilitated, that will be facilitated by technology. So technology is not going to be the thing that becomes ultra conscious. Rather, technology is going to be the thing that is a tool to get us to ultra consciousness. Very important distinction to make. So rather than it being a technological artificial singularity, which is how the world sees it, it is going to be a mental singularity. And that's going to be what we're talking about today. Because in terms of reality, here's what happens, okay? We began as a singularity. Before the Big Bang, before space and time existed at all, we existed in a pure mental state, a perfect realm of pure mind. We existed together as a collective mental entity. And if you're new to my channel, this is understood through mathematics and reason, not any kind of woo-woo mysticism or anything like that. It's a completely mathematical state, meaning that prior to the existence of space and time, we existed in a state of pure frequency, a pure frequency domain in which all of the constituent waveforms in that frequency domain are perfectly orthogonal, meaning they reflect perfect symmetry. The Big Bang was a symmetry-breaking event when we went from symmetry to asymmetry, which entails the breaking of orthogonality into non-orthogonal phase relations. And this is what started the Big Bang. So that's, in a nutshell, how it's mathematically defined in a very short amount of time. But if you want to understand it in more of a, intuitive way, think of it like a dream. The Big Bang was the moment that we as a collective mind began to dream together the dream of this existence. And so now all of our evolution is headed toward, we began in a singularity, and now we're headed towards another singularity. So what the true singularity is the end of space and time, where we enter into a purely mental existence, where there is no longer space and time, and we exist in a state of pure mind. So the true singularity is a transformation of matter, the material universe, into mind. That's the true singularity. And we're going to see, though, how technology, including the metaverse, can facilitate this process. We're going to be talking a lot about this. So, if we take a look here, and we're also going to take a look at a new development in meta technology, which allows you to feel in the metaverse. Recently, there's been a lot of discussion around singularity and whether we soon will be entering a phase where artificial intelligence will become reality. However, before we delve into the philosophical and ethical implications of singularity, we have to understand what it really is, its actual limitations, and why it may happen in a way that is different than anticipated. Singularity is the notion that the exponential acceleration of technological development will lead to a situation where artificial intelligence supersedes human intelligence and will eventually escape out of our control. Some even predict catastrophic consequences for humanity, where machines will become the dominant species on this planet. This may seem a bit far-fetched, at least for the near future, given that advancements in hardware development and robotics are not catching up with software when it comes to artificial intelligence. However, one can argue that the recent hype and developments surrounding the metaverse will definitely open the door to rethink the singularity. So basically what this is saying is that hardware developments and robotics are not catching up with software developments, and so this could be a problem with the development of this technological singularity. But within the metaverse, you won't be using, you don't need robotic bodies to get around. In the metaverse, it will be a sort of software generated body, a virtual body. So you wouldn't need that robotic hardware. So that's where the metaverse opens up a new possibility to where you could have, say, an artificial intelligence using a virtual body rather than, say, a robotic body. Now, here's the thing that I want to say about this. So in understanding ontological mathematics, consciousness, AI cannot generate consciousness. So the whole idea here is that people think that AI will eventually become conscious and they will become the new dominant species on Earth because they will develop a super consciousness. But here's the thing. In understanding ontological mathematics, artificial intelligence cannot become conscious. Here is why. So we know that reality is composed of mind, mental frequency components. And that we ourselves are minds. Now, the objects around you are all a product of our collective thought patterns, our collective frequency patterns. So the cup in front of you is a collective thought. It is formed by the collective frequencies of all the minds participating in the holos. And so, and in existence. So the idea here is that we, as minds, there is a distinction between the mind and body such that our bodies are like the cup. It's formed by collective thoughts. However, we as eternal minds, monads, monadic minds, link to our bodies and use them as a vehicle to interact in this world. So our bodies are a vehicle for what we truly are. We are conscious because we have a body that has the capacity to facilitate a monadic link. We are conscious because we have a construct that a mind can link to. A mind cannot link to the cup, and so the cup is not conscious. We are conscious by virtue of the fact that we are monadic minds that have linked to a body. So matter is mind, but it's not conscious. So matter cannot develop consciousness because matter is collective thoughts, not a conscious mind. A way to think about it is you are a mind. If you close your eyes and imagine a cup in your mind, that cup that you are imagining is not conscious, but it's made of your thoughts. That cup that you think cannot somehow generate its own sentience or consciousness and start having a will of its own in a true way apart from you. That's impossible. Likewise, the cup on the table, it's a collective thought. No mind is controlling it. It's composed of the thoughts of all the monadic minds in existence. So that cup cannot generate consciousness on its own. So artificial intelligence is predicated on matter. And artificial intelligence cannot develop consciousness because artificial intelligence has no monadic mind controlling it. It's like the cup. So we don't have to worry about artificial intelligence becoming conscious unless, there is some huge thing that we have overlooked, but that's very, very unlikely. It's not completely impossible, but it's very unlikely. So in our conception of ontological mathematics, as we currently understand it, artificial intelligence cannot generate consciousness. So we're not going to have the situation where AI becomes conscious and then AI becomes the dominant species and then AI takes over reality. However, what is a possibility is that we could build something that could facilitate a monadic link. So imagine that we create either robotic hardware or a virtual environment, such as a virtual avatar, let's say in the metaverse or something like this, that a monadic mind could link to. Now that is theoretically possible. It is theoretically possible that we could create some sort of hardware or virtual environment that could facilitate a monadic link that a mind, a monad, can link to, just like our bodies can facilitate a monadic link. But I want you to understand that that is completely different from AI developing consciousness. It would be then AI having the capacity for a mind to link to it. Big difference there. So AI cannot generate consciousness, but it is theoretically possible for it to establish, have the capacity for establishing a monadic link, for a mind to link to it, and using it as a vehicle, either as robotic hardware in the holos or in a virtual environment, such as within the metaverse. So what's very possible here is that it's not like we're going to develop AI and then AI will generate consciousness and then they will become the dominant race and obliterate humanity. Rather, it's very possible that what we are doing is developing our next generation of avatars. Because think about it. Right now, evolution has been an unconscious process that has produced our human bodies. And these human bodies facilitate a monadic link. So now we, being conscious entities, we are the hand of evolution. But we can be the conscious guiders of evolution. Technology is part of an evolving world, a teleiotic evolving world. Technology is what we create. And so it is very possible that, the next phase of evolution, as far as avatars, won't be some kind of biological development, but rather a technological one, in that as we create AI in virtual environments and robotics, most likely virtual environments, that we will be able to create something that will establish a monadic link. And so again, it is very, very possible that what we are doing is creating the next generation of our avatars. So really what that would mean is that, let's say one dies and incarnates, they would not incarnate, say, in a human body, but rather in whatever new avatar is developed. So it wouldn't be, do you see the big difference here? Is that it's not technology that will overtake, it's that we will be using technology as a tool to facilitate our mental evolution. We are always minds. We are eternal minds. Doesn't matter what we link to. We could link to a frog. We could link to a cat. We could link to a dog. We could link to a human. We could link to some sort of technological advancement. We are still eternal minds. These bodies, these avatars, are just vehicles for our mental development and evolution. So technology itself is not the thing that will gain consciousness and take over, but rather, again, if we establish this technology that can facilitate a monadic link, it is that we will be able to create a next generation of avatars, whether that's a robotic avatar or a virtual avatar within a virtual environment. We will be able to create a new phase of avatars to facilitate our mental development. So you see the big difference. I really want to get this across because some people might be a little fuzzy on it, but technology is not the end. Technology is a tool that facilitates mental evolution. Just like our bodies are a tool for us to get around and communicate that facilitates our mental evolution. So what the true singularity is not any kind of technological singularity, but rather it's a singularity of mind. And I've talked about this before, but what eventually happens, and when we're going to see this as the metaverse, is a stepping stone to this. We together exist on this planet as eternal minds. We grow and evolve together, and we become more in sync and more harmonized. Eventually, we will evolve to the point where we form our own monadic collective or group mind, and we can generate our own internal frequency realm, our own internal dream world. And the metaverse is absolutely a stepping stone to this, because this will all be, of course, technology is going to play a huge part in this development. It's silly to think that it won't. It will play a huge part in this development. And so what the mental singularity is, truly what truly the mental singularity is the end of space and time, and all matter being converted to mind across the entire universe, returning to the state that was prior to the Big Bang. That is the true mental singularity. And this is facilitated by our mental evolution. Because matter is just fractured mind. It's mind that is non-optimized. It is mind that is out of harmony and out of sync. When mind is in perfect harmony, perfect sync, and perfect unity, matter vanishes and we enter into a realm of pure mind. And we can see that humanity is developing further and further and further. And first, it will occur with us as a group mind. We together will form a group mind and be able to step away from a material existence and generate our own dream world. But so that will be sort of our own personal mental singularity in a certain way. But then that has to happen across the entire universe as well. So it's not just once humans achieve this apotheosis moment, it's not like the entire universe vanishes. No, that will just be for us in creating our own collective group mind dream world. And for the true singularity to happen across the entire universe, it has to happen for every monadic mind in existence, which means all other races and species across all planets, across the universe, everywhere, all places. So once humanity achieves it, it's not like it's the end. That's not the end. We will then just be focused on another level. Most likely, we will then begin interactions with other group minds and things of that nature as we start to play the game of life on a higher level. So our personal mental singularity isn't the end of everything. It's the beginning of a new phase of the game of life. It's a new phase where we start interacting on a higher level, playing at a higher level. We stop playing checkers and we start playing chess. Now, for it to the mental singularity across all of existence is the end of space-time in general and converting all matter into a purely mental existence. And we can see that the metaverse is absolutely a big catalyst towards this, in that it is generating a virtual environment, and we're, starting to step further and further away from reliance on the material world and being able to generate our own avatars, being able to interact with each other, etc. Now, I want to make it very clear that when it comes to the metaverse, I'm not opposed to the metaverse. I am pro the metaverse. However, I am against those who will run the metaverse. Big corporations like Facebook's Meta. It's Meta now. They're obviously going to try and monopolize the market. And when, basically, if you have private interests and corporate interests in charge of reality, that's a really bad move, because now you're not going to have a reality that is optimized towards giving you the best experience and is concerned about your actualization and growth. They will only be concerned about feeding you advertisements so that you can consume products, and it will be inhibitive to your growth. So the metaverse, as owned by private interests, is a negative. However, the metaverse in general is absolutely not a negative. It's a next step in beginning our evolution towards unity and collective actualization. So you can absolutely bet that I and many Hyperions will be using the metaverse to spread information, just like we use social media right now to spread information. And that's very important to realize that we need to use these things as tools to spread the information that we need to in order to wake up the world. I also want to point out, and I always say this, but I also want to point out, when the metaverse first starts, it's going to be probably rather silly. Just like when the first phones came out, they were, clunky and could hardly do anything except make calls and barely text. When phones first came out, cell phones, they couldn't even text. They were huge. So when the metaverse first, really comes out, it's probably going to seem kind of silly at first, and like all these things we talk about could never happen. But look what happened with cell phones. It will happen eventually, even if it starts and then fails. It might be even called something else other than the metaverse. Who knows? But whatever, this is something that will happen at some point. And as it seems right now, at least, it will begin very, very soon. Now, I also want to talk about because remember, in just the last stream, I was talking about how eventually, I was saying in our last stream on the metaverse, I said, imagine a time where not only are you plugged in just virtually and visually, but imagine if you wore some kind of suit that allowed you to feel everything within the metaverse. And I started talking about how the metaverse could very well start replacing this reality if you become so immersed in it that it becomes indistinguishable from regular, typical reality, typical space-time. And so I was talking about, imagine a suit you could wear that could feel and everything. And probably a lot of people thought that was super far-fetched or whatnot, or even some sort of, maybe via a neural link or something like that, some sort of brain augmentation to replicate sensation. But take a look at this. Meta's Sci-Fi haptic glove prototype lets you feel VR objects using air pockets. And here we can have a visual of this. Very, very interesting. Says you cannot pet a dog in Meta's new high-tech virtual reality gloves, but researchers are getting closer. Meta, formerly Facebook, is known for its high-profile moves into virtual and augmented reality. For 7 years, though, it has been quietly working on one of its most ambitious projects yet, a haptic glove that reproduces sensations like grasping an object and running your hand along a surface. While Meta's not letting the glove out of its Reality Labs research division, the company is showing it off for the first time today. I just love this, by the way. It's just so interesting. Their company's called Meta. It's called Reality Labs. It's so obvious that where this is headed, even though many people think that it's far-fetched. But anyway, the company is showing off for the first time today, and it sees the device alongside other wearable tech as the future of VR and AR interaction. At a simplified level, Meta's haptic prototype is a glove lined with around 15 ridged and inflatable plastic pads known as actuators. The pads are arranged to fit along the wearer's palm, the underside of the fingers, and their fingertips. The glove also acts as a VR controller. The back features a small white markers that let cameras track how the fingers are moved through space, and it's got internal sensors that captures how the wearer's fingers are bending. Now, again, here's another image of this, and this is extremely interesting. Now, again, this might look, this is a prototype. It's very clunky, and you know what? It probably doesn't work all that well. But like I said, this is just the beginning. Remember when cell phones first came out and they were these huge clunky things that couldn't even text? And look, some 20 odd years later, phones are extremely powerful and have absolutely, smartphones have taken over. So while this is a prototype, might look kind of clunky, if you have foresight, you can see where this is headed. So Meta, the Metaverse, this is an extremely important thing to keep an eye on. Now, we're not going to have some kind of technological singularity where AI overtakes by developing consciousness. But as I said, this is something very important to take a look at, because this is sort of a transitioning point to a new phase of existence in where there's a lot of possibilities on the table, such as, VR environments overtaking physical reality, or sort of replacing it in a certain way. And when we rely on it more than physical reality, and also the very big possibility, very, very big possibility that what we are doing is developing new avatars, a new phase of avatars, whether that is robotic or, as I think is more likely, a virtual environment, some sort of virtual environment. So, extremely important to understand that humanity is misguided with its idea of what technology is and the idea of a technological singularity. We are eternal minds. Technology itself is not the thing that is going to become conscious and overtake reality. Technology is a tool that facilitates our growth and development as eternal minds, just like our bodies are tools that facilitate our development as eternal minds. So this is all extremely exciting stuff, but we have to be very, very careful about who controls it. Because imagine everything we're talking about being controlled in the hands of private interests and big companies that don't care about your mental evolution and would rather enslave you and keep you docile, keep you subjugated, and keep you in a state of ignorance just so that you can become their batteries and their consumers. This is why, as all this develops, it's very important that we utilize this technology to spread this information, the information of Hyperianism, the information of ontological mathematics, the information of our philosophy, the information of New Terra and the new world that we want to build, so that we can begin to turn the tides of history towards the actualization of our and the collective's development and apotheosis as we build New Terra. So this is not the last video we will be doing on the metaverse. I'm sure this is something that we are going to be following very carefully, as everyone should, and be monitoring how it develops and how we can use it to our advantage. I want to give a big shout out to all our supporters on Patreon, especially our top supporters, Cassidy, Alana, Renaissance Fairy, Jordy, and Michael. Thank you guys so much for supporting my work and my channel. It means the world to me. This is how I'm able to do what I do. And when you do support, you get access to our weekly secret live streams, our hidden Discord server, the Citadel, and many of my hidden lecture notes. And we're having a secret live stream right after this. So thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it.